you. I rise and contribute to the debate on the annual budget papers, and I would like to start by thanking the government for the many funding allocations made in the budget, which I know will directly benefit the people of Moranni. We start with the funding allocation of $6.5 million for the refurbishment at Sarina State High School. And like many other schools in the region, Sarina State High is in dire need of upgrades and improvements, and also teachers, as we know. And this modest injection of cash will be welcomed by the school's teachers and students, as well as the whole community. I also thank the government for its commitment to provide 118 extra teachers for the Central Queensland region and 79 extra teachers for the Mackay region, which is great. However, there's no point boasting numbers if there's no way to house them when they arrive, and this is an issue that we have. Nonetheless, I am disappointed that my appeals for urgent action on the worsening teacher shortage crisis at Sarina State High School with such a shortage have had a devastating impact on student learning outcomes at schools impacted by these shortages. Last year, 11 candidates rejected the school's offers of employment, expressly citing the area's lack of accommodation and daycare facilities. Mount Morgan's in the same situation, which is why I'm hopeful the Minister will divert funding towards the construction or purchase and dedicated teacher accommodation near Sarina High School. I was also sorry to see that nothing in the budget papers in the way of support for funding for the people of Finchhatton, who recently had temporary planning instrument and flooding overlay imposed on the township and its surrounding areas. Last year I wrote to the Minister asking for funding so that the community could work with reef catchments to carry out flood management mitigation work for the old River Management Trust to be restored. And all that stuff that will come out of those river systems can be repurposed to build roads. River maintenance is crucial when it comes to mitigating impacts from heavy rainfall events such as Finchhatton. Virtually all of the damage these events cause are due to there having been no maintenance or mismanaged works carried out on Youngla's waterways for decades. I beg the Minister to reconsider this request. By my own calculations, some $1.147 billion was allocated in this year's budget for projects and programs within the electorate of Moranni. Of course, most of the $1.147 billion specifically relates to the government's massive green energy infrastructure program. I'm glad to hear the opposition's call today that they will be scrapping that idea. We do not want that in the electorate of Moranni. And it includes hundreds of millions of funding for massive allocations made towards the construction of habitat-destroying wind factories within my electorate. Both Lotus Creek and Boulder Creek boast thriving koala populations, as well as many endangered and threatened species whose habitat will be smashed by these developments. However, I recognise that these projects will no doubt create many job and business opportunities for local communities, so I'll make no further comment about these projects for now, as most people know my view on the matter. And I do, however, want to comment on the big renewable allocation in my electorate, the Burdekin pumped hydro. I have spoken at length about this, the environmental destructive impact of this project. The opposition understands its destructive nature as well, which is great. So we'll just make a few comments on the economic aspects. Getting any kind of pumped hydro project up and running is a notoriously difficult, time-consuming and expensive exercise at the best of times. And you only have to look at what's happened with the Snowy 2.0 to understand the scale of the problems we would be taking on with such a project. Added to all this is the fact that the pumped hydro is a net consumer of electricity. Across the whole spectrum, pump storage projects consume roughly 30% more electricity pumping water uphill than they generate water going downhill. It will drain our electricity grid, consuming electricity, most of which comes from burning fossil fuels, making the whole thing utterly absurd. And like pumped hydro operations, it will struggle to meet its debt repayments and operating costs, let alone to turn a profit. The government has pinned its hopes for shutting down Queensland's coal-fired power stations by 2035 on the construction of 2 mega pumped hydro projects of the cost of around $30 billion that we know of. They have bet the state of Queensland on a single project before a single soil study, geotechnical or seismic test or detailed or fully costed business case has been done. Deputy Speaker, 2 other projects that I'm pleased to see have received generous allocations are the Mount Morgan and Fitzroy to Gladstone water pipelines. Sadly, none of these pipelines will have water offtakes for the Fitzroy Agricultural Corridor, which I don't know why it's called an agricultural corridor because there's hardly any water there and most of the people don't have allocation. 2 other projects I'm pleased to see have received both are substantial investments in the region's water security and something that I have lobbied for long and hard, but we do need to get it to most of the regions. I'm disappointed there will be no water from the Fitzroy Gladstone pipeline diverted to the lower Fitzroy corridor, but I'll continue to push. We'll talk with the Mayor about allocations and how we can split that up. In the meantime, both pipelines will deliver many dividends in the way of plentiful jobs and economic gains of benefit to the whole region. In other good news, Stanwell Power Station was given $52 million for the refurbishment and upgrade works, which I thank the Minister for. Keeping Stanwell in good working order is vital for maintaining efficiency and reliability of our electricity supply here in Queensland. While there are many misguided calls to close the state's coal-fired power station, Stanwell is still a relatively young plant and has decades of life remaining in it. Central Queenslanders understand that the coal sector means economic growth and well-paid productive jobs for the regions. They also know that coal-fired power stations are the key to providing the reliable power generation which drives the growth and developments in our regions. At any given time, Queensland, up to 80% of the state's electricity is powered by fossil fuels, and a considerable amount of it comes from our coal. The people of Mooranni will also benefit from generous allocations made in the budget for hospitals and health services. Both Rockhampton and HHS and also the Mackay Base HHS do an outstanding job. I know a lot of the people there personally. I've had a lot of dealings with them over the past couple of months because my father has been in there for quite some time with a broken hip, and I thank them there for their service of what they've done. I'd particularly like to thank the government for delivering a major upgrade in 128 beds for Mackay Base Hospital to meet their region's growing demand for quality health care, and I hoped there might be something in the budget enabling the Mackay Base Hospital's helipad to remain operational during the hospital's redevelopment period. The helipad provides a critical service for the people of Mackay regions. It is imperative that the CQ rescue chopper are able to land within close proximity to the hospital emergency care, and I implore the Minister to work with Mackay Hospital and the local community to find a solution to the problem. We have discussed it. In a region where we have many road, farming and mine accidents, lives will be put at risk if the helicopter is forced to land away from that area. This year's budget dishes out a staggering $11.2 billion in concessions and rebates to struggling Queenslanders. While I'm happy struggling households are getting something put in their pockets during the current cost of living crisis, it's hard not to see that the government's cash splash as a blatant vote buying exercise, which risks driving up inflation and house prices yet again. Something that will only be made worse by the government's massive infrastructure on green energy projects will only make it much worse. And the Miles government has doubled down on the new investment in capital works across hospitals, energy, rail, roads and schools in 2024-25 Queensland budget, where the other state governments have been disciplined in their spending and the debt management and in this current environment. Queensland has thrown caution to the wind, I believe, and pushed the public debt to record levels. Infrastructure funding in Queensland is forecast to shoot up by 22.8%, or $10.3 billion over the next 4 years, bringing general government infrastructure funding to $55.6 billion. Much of this investment will be directed towards billion-dollar construction costs, overruns like the Coomera Connector, Rockhampton Ring Road and the Gold Coast to Logan Faster Rail. The budget's massive infrastructure spending is disturbing for a state once known for its physical responsibility. In addition to this, the government bloated public sector workforce has reached farcical proportions. According to the Auditor-General, Labor has added more than 34,000 workers to the public sector since 2015, with an annual wage bill of more than $67 billion. The creation of so many public sector jobs removes workers from the private sector where they could be more profitably and productively employed. More importantly, it shifts the vital sources away from the true wealth creators to those who are dependent on the public purse. The budget papers show deficits returning next financial year, while the gross general government debt, combined with the borrowings of government-owned corporations, is forecast to take the total of Queensland borrowings to $188 billion by 27-28. The annual interest on this debt will cripple the economy. In the meantime, real wages in Queensland have fallen by around 5% since 2022. National account figures show that the real household disposable income, a measure of living standards, fell 5.6% over 2023 and 8.3% over the last 2 years. Across Queensland, working-class households are suffering enormous financial and personal stress, with visibly rising levels of poverty and homelessness, which is a disgrace, especially in a beautiful state that we have and such a rich state that we have. Food bank queues are growing and more people are living in cars and tents. Added to all this, Queensland's skyrocketing price of electricity, insurance, rates, land values, which just keeps pushing the interest rates, rents and other costs higher. The green energy transition has barely begun and already a AEMO is warning of widespread energy shortages, blackouts and price hikes towards the end of the year. Coal showers in the dark for Queenslanders. Hardest hit will be those on low incomes, especially in the regions. And, Mr Speaker, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Andrew, the State Member for Moranni. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications to stay up to date with my latest videos. And also make sure to check out my other socials and my website links. They will be available in the description below. Thank you for joining us.